my name is Amari, and this is our summary and review of Miller's Girl. So, to summarize, the film is set in Tennessee. Cairo's 18, but still in high school, and her parents are wealthy, expensive lawyers who travel a lot, and she is often left alone in their huge, I wouldn't even call it a mansion, it's an estate, because the building is huge, the land around it is huge, it's ridiculous. And because she's often left alone, the way that Kyra's painted, she's given this almost Beauty and the Beast type of vibe in terms of her life is just filled with books and that's her escape. So, when it comes to Kyra's life, Winnie, her best friend, is usually what her human entertainment is, since Winnie's definitely a little bit risque. But then comes Mr. Miller, who is a writer who published one book of poetry. Didn't get the best reviews, but in Tennessee, getting someone like him as an English teacher is a big get, so Kyra respects him. As for Mr. Miller's wife, maybe not so much, but she does something in the literary field which takes up a lot of her time. So between that and drinking, she's more than entertained. And as for Mr. Miller, his best friend is also a teacher at the school, who's a coach and I think teaches either math or science, and his name is Mr. Fillmore, so Mr. Miller has more than enough at home, at work, to keep him occupied. But, as we noted, Cairo, on the other hand, does not. She's been reading about books and longing for who knows how long, has been listening to Winnie have all these different type of experiences, including this weird flirtation with Mr. Fillmore. So when it comes to Cairo, after reading Mr. Miller's book and starting to create a sort of teacher-student relationship that eventually kind of has the lines blur, she starts to fall for him. She thinks that he's falling for her, and that's when things get complicated. For as much as it's originally very cute, and even Mr. Miller's wife is entertained by it, as it comes to the point where it seems less like a crush and more like something that could have been reciprocated, that's when things start to get very dark for Mr. Miller, especially since even if Cairo is born in this no-name town in Tennessee, that doesn't mean that she's simple in any way. She's actually quite brilliant in a way that, for Mr. Miller, eventually becomes scary. So, notable highlight when it comes to this, without a doubt, is Jenna Ortega. This is taking nothing away from Martin Freeman, but I feel like Jenna Ortega makes this movie. Her take on the femme fatale as this young, seemingly impressionable young woman, very brilliant. That is what initially hooks you in, and it's hard to not love when Ortega's playing someone who still very much taps into that sort of weird darkness that Ortega brings to most of her roles, yet also this youthful levity that allows you to understand that as much as her comfort zone may be in these dark tales, whether it's horror movies or dramas, at the same time, there's still a part of her that could easily play someone who enjoys falling in love, being somebody young, teenager even, and because of that, we get this beautiful balance. And granted, the highlight isn't necessarily when Cairo is playing this naive girl, but more so when she starts to really show that no matter how Mr. Miller may perceive her, he will probably always underestimate her. And there's this particular one scene that was really good, where it's at that point where it's clear that Mr. Miller doesn't have feelings for Cairo, and she kind of questions it and even starts to kind of take off the rose-colored glasses a bit. And the way that you see Ortega talk Freeman down, I swear to you, if this was a play, I would have a difficult time not yelling or shouting just because of how intense it was. It was just so good. And what makes her performance even better is that he's starting to because it's getting really uncomfortable for him. Mr. Miller's starting to look away. He's getting uncomfortable. She grabs his chin, makes him look up at her because she got onto a platform to literally look down on him. And just watching this mix of admiration, burgeoning love, and this crush kind of transform into disappointment, disdain, and maybe even a form of self-loathing because she realizes who this man is. I know that this film did not get the best reviews, but it truly did something for me. But just to be clear, while Ortega was the main hook for me, and that could just be my own bias, this isn't to say that other people didn't bring their best to this film. When it comes to Mr. Miller, Winnie, Mr. Miller's wife Beatrice, and Mr. Fillmore, you can see everybody sort of playing a game. And while their game may not be as high stakes and dangerous as the one that Mr. Miller's playing with Cairo, you can tell everybody's trying to get their kicks off of each other. Beatrice, she's initially entertained by Cairo's crush, and even whatever's going on, Mr. Fillmore, considering that Mr. Fillmore is being very secretive about what's happening between him and Winnie. Winnie, who like Cairo's been in this town, perhaps a big fish in a small pond, having this man and getting to get her kicks because of the scandal that could be if they actually did something. And then of course he's playing into that, but also he knows where the line is. And then you can see that with Mr. Miller, he's trying to share what that line is, but Mr. Miller thinks that he's not gonna pass it. And then you see there's almost a spider's web of various things that could go wrong, all while each person sees each other as the prey as they move about the web. And it truly keeps you engaged throughout the entire film, which is about an hour and 33 minutes, so believe me, it's not that long.